Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a WDCE Loud Rock interview with Windfaerer, supporting their upcoming record Breaths of Elder Dawns. How are you gentlemen doing this fine evening?
Doing great.
Doing well.
Let's go ahead and
Can't
give everybody
complain,
a
man.
little round table real quick. Make sure everybody's familiar with names and faces. I am Connor. I'm the host of the show. Who do we got going around?
So I'm Mike, the guitar and vocal in Windfaerer.
Ben, I play violin.
Itai, second guitar, and sometimes vocals.
I'm Mike, just bass. That's it. Just bass, nothing else.
Now, first question then, were we not able to get the drummer on the call, or are there actually no drums?
There are very much drums.
Yeah, he's a little delayed. He may join us a little bit later.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. He's got some stuff going on at home he's got to take care of, but hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. He has the link.
Gotcha. Excellent. Beautiful. Well, no worries there. Let's move forward. Let's just talk about the new record. I know I sent Ben a review. I don't know if any of y'all have gotten the chance to peek at it, but my first impression was just that the wall of sound you guys make is impressive in that it does not require any artificial takes or artificial synths or anything. Like, the strings are real, guitars are real, bass is real. Like, how did you guys go about creating such a thick soundscape without the aid of, synthesization?
Well, that's part of the mentality we go into it with is how we sound live. So we try to capture the instruments as if we would play them live. So even like the violin, the electric violin with the effects on it, the guitars and everything is just that wall of sound is just influenced by what we do when we rehearse it.
Yeah, and part of our own challenge to ourselves with this album was how much atmosphere can we kind of bring to the table with just our own instruments, and try to be organic as possible and be true to our own instrumentation.
And another point on it would be just thinking orchestrationally. Because just utilizing all the instruments we have. So, for melody instruments, we have bass, we have the two guitars, violin. So, thinking about how we're going to spell out chords, whether we're all moving in parallel motion versus if there's a little counterpoint going on, or if the two guitar players are voicing chords differently. Just changing the color, the texture of harmonically what's going on, even in parts where, the harmony, the chord progression is pretty simple, but just being conscious of that and how the song grows
Mm-hmm.
adds a lot.
Well, no, it definitely makes sense. When it comes to layering and whatnot, did you ever play any stringed instruments other than the violin, Ben, or is that all just straight violin?
So on the album, you're hearing primarily electric violin, which is what I play live, and then throughout the album, you hear orchestral strings, and I actually just tracked myself, two violin sections, a viola section, and you call it a chin cello section. It's an octaved electric violin, so it's like an electric cello.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just 28 layers there. So I just I went all in with the studio side of things, just to beef up certain sections and just add that sound to it.
Well, I think that's what's beautiful about the record as a whole. Like, it definitely comes through in the orchestration that it is real. It does not sound like someone's just hitting a chord on a keyboard and there's your string ensemble. Like, you actually recorded every bit. The bass punches through, the guitar layers play together nicely. The drums were actually one area where I was very impressed, just because good analog drum recording is rare these days. So, like, especially with blast beats, hearing those just thundering parts keep going and going, but it does never sound robotic, was very important to me. It sounded very good.
James is
Thanks.
a beast.
Yeah, our drummer's he's very talented and one of the most creative people I've worked with. And actually the drum tracking that was the most DIY part because James got a couple interfaces together, connected them with ADAT, and set up basically a drum studio in his basement. So I went down and we all took turns engineering. We got very good takes. At least I think. I think everything sounded awesome. And then went home, just did the touch up editing, and then just layered everything on top from there.
Hmm. Um, when it comes to the live setting, is there anything that you guys do differently? Do you do any backing tracks ever, or do you kind of accept that it's going to be slightly stripped back?
We kind of just accept that's going to be stripped back. As essentially, we just play it like it is. It's like F it, we'll go live.
Yeah.
Like that whole mentality is just go for it. Even if there's like slight tempo changes, we add some stuff like more space in between some songs. Like we improvise some like effects in between, things like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, we let it like stay pretty organic live too, and honestly, to me, having backing tracks is just scary because it's another thing that could go wrong. So like, kudos to any other band that can do it and like, get through it. Like, great for you, but it scares the crap out of me. Like, I prefer having this like you said, analog
Hmm.
kind of dynamics. So if I get a little bit out, I can come back in and you know
Now, does that mean that there's no click live either?
No click.
correct. Yeah.
James is the click.
It's a beautiful
It's
thing.
just his natural metronome.
Excellent. One thing I always like to ask, especially when it's bands where I know that Ben has Thank You Scientist, which is obviously a very different creative outlet. For all the rest of you guys, is this your main outlet? Is this also a side project? Where does Windfaerer sit with you guys?
Well, Windfaerer was always like my little baby. I started it like now over now over a decade ago, and so it was always like my main outlet. But then I have another main outlet on its side. Me and James are both in a death metal band called Replicant, and it's like two very different things, but both hold a special place in my heart. So, and then I'm also in working with a couple of friends of mine in a black metal band uh, called Putrescension. I'm just doing vocals in that, so it kind of frees me up. And also doing another project, just vocals, called Voidscape with the guy Bobby Torres, who engineered, mixed, because Ben engineered most of this album, but
Mm.
Bobby Torres mixed it, and he does guitar in this other project as well. So I'm a little spread out here and there. So.
Absolutely. How about you, Itai,
Yeah.
Michael?
So I have like a one-man project on the side called Afar, and it's really just like a creative outlet on the side whenever I have free time, and there's never pressure with it. And I always think of what it could possibly be in the future, but it's mainly a black metal, one-man project. Um, and I've dabbled before with like electronica and post rock and things like that, and
Hmm.
I'm definitely always looking for time to do more of that as well.
Hmm.
But Windfair is 100% my number one band.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and with me, it's just been Windfair for the past couple of years. I've been in other projects prior, but I like to just kind of keep it with one band as best as I can. I will like to do other projects, but just time constraints. Sometimes I just don't find the time. But right now, it's just Windfair.
Now, I have something to keep that conversation going, but with you on the screen just now, I did not actually gather what I was looking at a moment ago. Do you want to talk about the wall behind you? What exactly do we have going on here?
A little wall of shame. It's just a bunch of retro games, I guess. I got stuff from the PlayStation to the N64. I like to collect and preserve and play old retro games, even the more current ones. But I'm kind of a collector,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, this is just my wall of shame.
That was beautiful. You got a hell of a collection.
Ain't shame in that.
Thanks, man.
It's the sickest wall I've ever seen, bro.
Yes,
So
My main embarrassment
yeah,
would
I
be
have.
my.
I go on conference calls sometimes, and people at work. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I continue.
No, I was saying sometimes I'll be on conference calls at work and they ask me like, "Hey, do you do like a YouTube channel on the side or something? Because your backdrop looks insane." I'm like, "No, I should, right?"
My shame would just be my many Witcher statues.
Witcher!
yeah.
Um,
I'm a witcher.
you hit us with our first tattoo stories. I've got Geralt's Witcher
Sweet.
signs from the
Oh,
from the game.
sick.
What do you guys got? Hit us with first tats real quick.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one with tats.
Show it off, baby. Come on.
A little bit of hexagonal action there.
Nice.
Peter
Thick line
and-
work works.
Kind of a rare thing to hear a band with like no tattoos, a metal band with no
Very true.
tattoos.
Very true. You're untainted.
Yeah.
Clean boys.
I don't think James has any tattoos either. So
Fresh
it's
skin.
only
Itai's the
yeah.
filthy one then. He's a dirty,
Yeah.
dirty boy. So
for many reasons.
let's talk black metal. It is above and beyond, I would say, the most divisive subgenre of metal. It's one of those things where I always tell people you could put a bunch of metalheads in a room and they could easily either love each other or hate each other. And, to everybody else, all their music sounds the same, but these two guys will be at each other's throats about what's good and what's not. And black metal is, in my opinion, the most divisive. It has one of the most conflicted histories. So what was your black metal moment? When did you get into this music and want to start creating it? What was the first track or album that set you down this path?
Okay, well, for me, I guess for like what got me into black metal is like also starting like Windfaerer and stuff was listening to Falkenbach, specifically Have 'Em All, and also listening to the first Moon Sorrow. I think it was like a 3-track demo, and just the rawness behind that and how they came across so atmospheric at the same time. And then also, I gotta say, it was listening to Burzum as well. Dead Soulman Gang Bar. That album really got me into it, like the discordant chords and just that atmosphere, that darkness that was created with it. It's just so many cool things that has influenced. So just just all around a lot of stuff. And also like for Windfaerer is also that alongside a lot of like melodic death and folk metal as well. But just the atmosphere that black metal creates, you know.
That was what I was going to ask, actually, in response to that. Like, what would make Windfaerer black metal beyond just the vocal styling? And it's obvious that, Windfaerer, you've got this eclectic mix. You definitely have a bunch of different subgenres thrown in there, which is the main reason it's interesting, because it's a good thing to find these days, this eclectic mix. But definitely I was going to ask, what makes it black metal beyond the vocals?
I don't know exactly what would make it black metal, honestly, because I would even, it's like, I guess besides our influences, we're primarily influenced by black metal bands. And it just kind of like we made this dish that is Windfaerer with that. And then there's amalgamation of things like old school Dark Tranquility and In Flames that was like really big on us. And hey, man, by you know by what do you call it, like a couple degrees away, they were influenced by black metal bands too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny, like that. And obviously Bathory is a big influence.
That was the
And
main one I was going to bring up, like with the string arrangements and that like really
yeah,
dark gothic atmosphere. One thing that also you're talking about bands that are like degrees separated.
yeah,
Matt
exactly.
Heafy has always entertained me because he is like the biggest black metal fan, and Trivium is like the furthest thing from black metal in the
Yeah.
metal world that you could get. But that man loves his black metal. Um, Michael, how about you? What was your black metal moment?
I would say that I was kind of late to the party with black metal compared to everybody else. When I joined Windfaerer, I was pretty much heavily involved in a lot of death metal stuff. And then once I came on board with Windfarer, I mean, they already had some releases prior to me joining, but I loved the sound. I always told Mike that I absolutely loved it. And then once I joined the band, that's when I started to discover what he was being influenced by. Um, you know, Burzum, and then a couple of more like shoegazy black metal bands like Alcest and Le Decree, and just stuff like that. But I'm very much like a late bloomer to the black metal scene compared to everybody else. But
Still
yeah, but
learning.
I'm still kind of learning. It's a lot to take in for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my earliest influence shows up right in the Windfarer discography. The first black metal band I ever heard was Emperor, um, and the first song was "Night of the Graveless Souls," which we actually did a cover of on the re-release of our EP Solar. Um, so that's available if anybody listening wants to check out our Bandcamp. But yeah, that Wrath of the Tyrant Emperor release was my gateway into the genre, and just something about it stuck with me. And Emperor was I feel like a great place because they're a bit eclectic in and of themselves. They're very raw, very straightforward, gritty, but especially in that tune, you had the synths in the background, so little symphonic elements.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
Um,
think my first
yeah.
Emperor track was like Prometheus.
Hmm.
And I remember when it got to like about three-fourths through the song and that guitar solo started, and the way it just snarls there for a second before he actually starts the solo, like that moment has always stuck with me on that track. So Emperor's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
one to remember.
Yeah, Emperor, I think, long-standing has most consistently been what I would call my favorite and most highly influenced by black metal band. Of course, De Mysterious by Mayhem. That record
Yep.
I've been listening to for years, and I just never get tired of it. When they did the reunion tour, I saw them at least 3 times. And loved it every single night, like it was a brand new show. Just something about that album, the production, the songs, and of course all the lore behind it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
everything that went down. It's quite interesting. Not exactly wholesome, but I don't think that's the point. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean those bands have been really solid influences to me as gateways. But then Mike mentioned Falkenbach before, and I'd say, going towards the folkier side of things, I listened to those Falkenbach albums, especially like the first three or four of them. Got a lot of plays in my high school years. And another favorite of my, just this is more on the Viking side of things, so straying away from black metal, but Teresis,
Hmm.
um, definitely. I wouldn't call them black metal by any means, but they're very folky, very Viking metal. Also, a lot of really interesting orchestrations and brilliant songwriting. Especially my favorite album is their first one, Battle Metal,
Hmm.
and that's just musically in general for me. That's one of the biggest influences in a lot of everything that I write, whether it's for Windfarer, for Thank You Scientist, or anything. It's just part of my voice as a musician that I've learned from, and now try to talk like that. If
Hmm.
that makes any sense.
Yeah. Real quick before we go to Itai, you were talking about seeing De Mysteriis live. Now, obviously, the sound of a live band is drastically different always from their studio sound. And classic black metal notoriously being that like really, really rough, raw, almost like brick wall mix. Like, do you think you preferred seeing it live and almost heard the song? Like, did you hear elements that you may not have heard before because of the production of the record, or do you think that the record still holds up?
I mean, I think the record holds up plenty well. I mean, with that album, that album, like what you heard was the band. Like I can't even think of.
So crunchy.
Yeah, it's very crunchy, very raw to begin with, and I can't think of any parts where they added like extra production elements. So when you're hearing them live, you're just hearing the core band, and Attila, he has plenty of effects and whatnot on his vocals, and not to mention just his technique is unique, and I think he's one of the most entertaining vocalists to listen to and to watch. Um, so yeah, I felt like they were very similar experiences, but I mean the live is just you're there seeing the band do it like in front of you.
Mhm.
That's thrilling. Um, and also, I think that just the way that album was recorded, being that it was done in a concert hall, so right there, just the studio album has a live element to it, just with the type of room that they recorded in. I don't know all of the details on as to how they did it, but I do know it was in the Grieg Hall in Norway.
Mhm.
So you're getting a lot of that just natural room sound for sure. No matter how much of it or how little they blended it in the mixing,
Yeah.
but it's definitely there, and I think that's one of the parts. Just sonically, that's one thing that always grabbed my ear about that particular record.
Mhm. How about you, Itai?
So to me, it was I'd say probably more of a gradual kind of leaning, and then leaning in more and more. Um, like I grew up um, getting into metal in general, like Iron Maiden, like really got me on that path early on. But then, little by little, you find the more extreme and more extreme, and gravitate to that. And definitely by high school, like Bathory really stood out to me, like amazing band. And when I discovered like Nordland 1 and 2, blew my mind.
Mhm.
And then that led me into Moon Sorrow as well, like and Falkenbach. My uncle bought me a Falkenbach CD. I was like, "What is this?" And I played the crap out of that CD until it was not playable anymore.
I'm gonna have to look up
Um,
Falkenbach because that's four different people that have mentioned them now, and I'm gonna be blunt. I've literally never heard of the band, so I'll need to fix that.
just chef's kiss, you know. Um, no, it's mind blowing, amazing, folky black metal that really shaped everything for me. Like, um, yeah, and like, uh, besides them, like once I was getting into college, I was getting more with like progressive stuff, like Opeth, um, those folks. But yeah, like the original Bathory, Burzum,
Mhm.
Moon Sorrow, Falkenbach, like that's the core of my like black metal riff land.
Beautiful. I'll hit you guys with mine real quick. Oh, now includes unlimited minutes. Hell yeah.
Cute.
Um, uh, I'll hit you guys with mine real quick before we like really dig into Breaths of Elder Dawns.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard Opeth was my friend showed me Porcelain Heart on the middle school bus ride, and I was like, "What is this?" And so I bought Watershed with my allowance, and when Heir Apparent came on, my like butt fell out of my pants because I'd never heard like a death growl before. I was like, "What is what is happening?" And
One
so
of their heaviest albums.
yeah, once I fell down that rabbit hole, someone else recommended Dark Fortress to me, and so I looked up their newest record at the time, Ilem, and
Oh, that's a good
when
one.
when that title track came on, I was like, "Oh, this sounds pretty cool. Wait, what's this guy doing?" And that first shriek just has always stuck with me. Like, it was just disgustingly gnarly.
Yeah.
Um, so let's get into Breaths of Elder Dawns. So like we talked a little bit about how you guys managed to establish like that atmosphere. You put it out there as an album that kind of demands to be listened to in full. I mentioned this in my review as well, but like one thing that gets lost in translation a lot, I think, is just the song itself. Like people will get too caught up in, what layers can we put here? How many different instruments can we put over this blast beat to make it sound more epic? Um, you guys don't do that. Like you let the song speak for itself, I feel like. So like how do you go about capturing something like that?
Well, yeah. So you mentioned, in some cases, layers and layers of extra production are added. So although there are plenty of extra layers, with the strings, for instance, and extra leads. However, um, we we think about the song first. We think about, you know the the sound of it, the mood, where it's going, the build, and all the layers, with only a few exceptions, are just reinforcing parts that are already there, whether it's bringing out a voicing of a chord, or if a guitar is, playing like a chord with a melody in like one of the higher notes, maybe just bringing that out. So really, the layers are just to embellish what's in the core band. And for the parts that I added, that was my approach. And whenever I write additional parts to go on top of, whether it's one of my bands or somebody I'm doing session work for, I always try to look at the source, what the source contains, and stick with that, because at the end of the day, you're trying to serve that song. Um, and then also, we're very meticulous with our pre-production. We all have home recording setups, suitable for doing, at the very least, good sounding demos. Um, so we take the time and we'll track everything out. We'll use Easy Drummer to get some placeholder drum parts, and we'll send files back and forth. And especially with the pandemic, that was how basically this whole record was written. It wasn't until after everything was demoed out that we actually got together and started learning it, and basically went straight to tracking it.
I'm gonna say the same thing where, like, as far as um, like the process of the recording for this album, it, it's it's not necessarily that it's natural to us to like put the right amount of stuff in there. It's we've listened to these tracks so many times, like in the car, over here, there, like being stuck in a room that you can't leave for a couple weeks. Like just listen to the same stuff again and again and see what comes to you, um, and then share it with the rest of the band, get some feedback. Like the tracks as they are now, so different from where they started, um, and we really took the time in the studio also to, like Ben was saying, like embellish what was already there. So like, let's say the original demo for a particular track just had a straight blast section for one part, but then during recording, James had this killer fill that like ended on a tom or something. We're like, that'd be sick to do, this guitar thing on top of that. And like, you know we kind of just took it from there and kind of let the songs evolve on the spot. Like, you know um, even writing lyrics was part of it, like over time. Like it was not a, um, you know it didn't come by itself. It came from the songs.
Well, that's one thing I like to ask as well, because like there's only so many forests and mountains that we can sing about wandering and traveling through. Like how do we keep black metal lyrics fresh? Like where did these come from? Are they more personal? Are they more poetic and abstract? Like what are we looking at in terms of themes on the record?
I mean, a lot of the lyrics are like tie into personal stuff. It's in a way like a cathartic kind of just like a release of deep-seated emotions. So it's kind of like just talking from personal experience, but like in an abstract way, setting in a more quote unquote um, epic wording. You know, like we all, you know, we're all sometimes wandering through the forest of life. You know, like in a way. So it's like it ties into personal things. It ties into loss, to like just losing people, like like failed relationships, all that stuff.
And successful relationships too. Like
Yeah.
we have like a vision maybe of a song, or even like a phrase that will stick in your mind, and you just like keep thinking about this phrase. And like writing lyrics for us is almost like a trance like state where you like you let visions kind of come through and you put them on paper. And it may not necessarily have one meaning, and you can think about it later, like, oh, this is also this sort of thing and that. And um you know there's very few instances where we're on purpose like, I'm going to write a song about traveling on land, and like,
Yeah.
it's um it also grows organically.
Yeah, like there'll be some times where, like Itai said, like we'll be like writing words, but then those words evoke an emotion, and then that's when it's just like, man, like I feel this way when this happened to me, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to keep extrapolating that idea, just like I want to like drive it home, like I want to, I like personally when I go in, I try to like just feel. I try to just get myself really sad when I'm reading some of these lyrics. So, but yeah.
Were there
Sad boys.
good old sad boy hours on the
Hell
new
yeah.
Windfaerer record? So when it comes to putting these songs together, we've established that like it very much was a group effort. Um, are there instances where you write something and you're not sure that it's Windfarer or something else, or like is everything you write you just see what comes of it? Like so I've got some guys I'm playing with and I have my band back home. Um, and like when I come up with something, sometimes I'll think to myself, "Oh, do I want to save this? Do I want to save it for my boys, or do I want to like just use it with who I'm playing with here right now?" Like, do you ever have that sensation?
Yeah, I mean, like,
all the time.
yeah. Yeah, we have so many influences that it's just like, oh, this could go into Windfarer, because Windfarer is like almost like all encompassing with a lot of influences. So it's like, oh, this could definitely fit in a Windfarer song or like whatever. But then it's just like, we always have that inner struggle with that stuff. I know. I feel like all of us do
Mm-hmm.
in the band.
And definitely for this album, like we had a couple tracks that we wrote that are like complete songs, but then in context of this record didn't quite make sense to go in. And like, oh, we'll see what happens to them in the future, maybe nothing, maybe something, but maybe for a solo project, maybe for this or that, or yeah, we let it be what it is. And really think about it critically, because you should definitely not be afraid to kill your babies in a way for
Yeah.
the
It was
greater
actually
good
a
of
song.
yeah.
It was actually a song that was kind of put away for a couple of years, I think, and we brought it back for this record. Like at least
Oh,
in the
yeah.
demo version, we had
Yep.
Well,
sometimes you never know if you write something that was a few years old that will fit in the context of what you're doing now. That's exactly what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what
with
happened
one
with
of the songs.
Starcrossed was actually written like during the Alma period, the last, like probably like it was written like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then we never really, it was one of those issues of not having that flow right with the rest of the songs. So that one stayed and it ended up fitting in this record. So there's probably like an album's worth of songs that are in purgatory right now for Windfaerer that just that just sit there. They're like, that just didn't fit the flow, man.
They're in the song dungeon, and when they when they
Yeah.
serve their sentence, they will come out reinvigorated.
Yeah, exactly.
You stay in chains.
You stay
Think
in
about what you've
chains,
done.
or E.T. the Dirty Boy will come down to the song
Oh, I'm coming. Oh, is that a tattoo on your cheek now? Oh no.
I'm sure I've asked Ben this question 2 or 3 times now since I've spoken with him and Thank You Scientist a few times. This is always one straying a little bit from Breaths of Elder Dawns. I always like to ask every new artist I interview if you could write the score to any book, movie, or video game that maybe had not had it yet, or you would have done it differently, what would it be and why?
Yo, Mike, go first.
I always find this is one that really gets people excited.
Yeah. Go, Mike.
Oh, I don't know. I think that would be.
Well, so
That's many video games to pick from.
That's the thing though with Mike, because like those classic video game scores, like people are religious about them. Like
you can't touch that.
Yeah.
That's like when you say that, all I can think about is like Blade Runner, like things that already have an amazing soundtrack. I just keep thinking about amazing soundtracks, and I can't, if it's not there, it's I won't think about it.
Yeah.
But then you have a couple of films out there that don't have a score, like No Country for Old Men.
Old Country for No Men.
Oh, there you go. Old Country for No Men. Excuse me.
I like that version.
Old Country, Florida Man.
Yeah, that film has no score, but it's
intentional.
But it works. It's intentional for that film.
Yeah.
It has no score, so like sometimes a score isn't needed. But there's so many
no
great
score
scores.
is needed.
Yeah, excuse me.
Isn't that the movie with that like droning sound in it? Has like a really deep like sub.
No, I don't think it has anything.
Inception?
You think I don't know, man.
No, that has
wrong.
No. Like I heard No Country for Old Men or Old Country for No Men, whatever it's called nowadays. These kids changing things. But I always thought that every time the villain came up, it always had like this deep like sound. You only could hear it in IMAX or something. That's what I thought about that. Or is that what I'm thinking?
It might have been very subtle, but from my understanding, that film had nothing. But I don't know.
Nothing in a traditional sense.
Well, it's interesting. So that's actually the first time I've gotten that response that in its own way, like not having a score adds to the
tension.
It's dread.
Tension. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
This is not a movie or a video game, but I'd rewrite Saint Anger by Metallica.
Okay.
I totally rewrite it. I make the songs shorter, and you know what? I'd probably put in guitar solos in it, and
Yep.
you know what I would do? I would rewrite No Leaf Clover and that Mission Impossible song they did a bunch of times and make an awesome hard rock record.
Disappear.
That's what I would do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
Hell yeah.
Saint Anger, the hard rock album. Radio rock.
Take a few deep cuts from Lulu and throw them on there.
Oh my god. So
the
weird.
Deepest cuts.
That the Lulu cut is the deepest.
Oh man.
So when you guys were writing for this record, obviously you said the songs evolved very organically. Was there any instance where, like, obviously I'm sure Ben like came in with a violin part and wanted something done under it. Does the writing process for that differ from like Mike coming in with a bass line that he thinks might make a good chord progression, or like does the writing process ever differ from starting point to starting point, or does it kind of all work the same way?
Well, the way we write is that we usually all of us are songwriters. So like Mike will come up with the song and throw it into the gauntlet. Like a full song. Like we'll come up with full songs each of us. So it's like I'll come up with some, Itai will come up with some, Ben will contribute, and then we will all kind of just see how we can make them fit into a cohesive work. And yeah, in that case, like Ben will come in, he'll put in some of his violin parts over it, and he says, "I think this should go here, and this would be cool over here," and then we'll go back and forth and rearrange that stuff. So it's like kind of just we never try to shut anybody down or anything like that. So it's like always we're entertaining each other's ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So we always try to add to that souffle.
Yeah, no, that's it right there. I feel like I mean, we all play guitar. Me, not so much. I hack away and I can edit my ideas together. But you know, although Mike's playing bass, he is primarily a guitarist and actually picked up bass to play with us. But yeah, when I'm writing my tunes, I usually start with guitar parts and I write my violin parts on top of that. Um, Very rarely is a part the other way around, but and same thing goes with the rest of the guys when they come up with parts or with songs rather. A lot of times they'll have some leads that they want me to cover, or sometimes they'll just write me a creative blank check and say, "Here's the tune, see it, let's see what you got," and then we'll go back and forth and we'll do revisions. Sometimes section will get lengthened, shortened, or replaced, but yeah, at the end of the day, even though these songs will start with one composer, by the end of the song, it's five composers.
Yeah, and like Ben was saying, a lot of times, we will come in with some riffs and say like, I think the violin should, do this little lead on top, and then sometimes like Ben will come and try something different, and it'll be sick, and that's the lead. And sometimes we'll try it and be like, yeah, I think I want to do the original thing, or keep something from the new lead and something from the original idea. Like we'll always find something that we're all happy with, that we think fits. And like when it comes to, like you're saying, clashing with the bass or something like that, that's like when we get to the actual tracking and like real fine tuning of like, should the bass go bong on this part, or should we keep it tame? Like we'll see how it fits in the context of like everybody else and what they're doing, and it's like it gets into the little hairs. but usually, like when it comes to that, it's one layer at a time that we're really trying to fine tune, and then once that's set, it's pretty much set, and then we go to the next layer and to the next.
Excellent. Well, let's focus in and start winding down. What sets Breaths of Elder Dawns? They're both plural, right? Breaths of Elder Dawns. I haven't been making an ass of myself the whole time.
No, that's fine. You're right.
Okay,
That's
beautiful.
fine.
I was like, you said that's fine, and I'm like, oh shit, I've been saying it wrong.
No.
So, what really sets this one apart? Like, obviously, there's just a need to create behind every album, but why did this one need to come out?
Well, I would say this one sets apart is just where every album I look at it as like an improvement upon the previous release. So it's like we had a sound on Alma with the whole lineup here with Itai and James and Mike, aside from me and Ben. So it was like we got this first album together as a whole band, and then let's see what we can do, and then another album after it. And it's always like an improvement. What do we like about the previous album that we can improve upon in the next one? So it's like,
yeah,
this one, that's just the, I guess what I would say is like the whole logistical aspect of it that sets it apart. I mean, and in the abstract sense, it's this one really had more of a cohesive, like emotional kind of just like vision from
From the get
our,
go.
yeah, from our straight up
Like,
from the gut, just let's
yeah,
go.
with this album, like the last album, Alma, we had a blast in backroom studios, and um, that was, I think, the first time we did a full length as a band um, in a studio like that, and and we absolutely loved it, and it was such an awesome experience. Um, but for this album, we really wanted to kind of come back home in a way, and like take our time in the studio to really like sit there with every track and listen back many times, um and take the time. I feel like
Hmm.
this album is that much closer to our hearts and closer to home, and um we really were able to take the time and like pour our soul into this.
Well, and like that attention to detail shines through because I feel like when you take that experience of going into a studio, it does have its perks. Like one of my favorite records of all time, Remedy Lane by Pain of Salvation. I know that that record was basically written over a month. Like they wrote
Yeah.
it, went into the studio, boom, knocked it out. But it would almost be like the sensation of a pressure cooker, I imagine. So like you got to knock it out. You got to knock it out. Any minute's a dollar. Any minute's a dollar. So like
Hmm.
it would be freeing, I imagine, and that attention to detail and the ability to take your time and fine
Yes.
tune it definitely came through.
Thank you,
Thank you. And
really
definitely for
appreciate it.
vocals, like when we track logistically, to have that time in between songs that we can like blow our voices out for the take
Hmm.
and come back like a week later and blow ourselves out again for the next take. Like, you know, being able to do that instead
Yeah,
of like, oh, let me conserve myself a little bit. I have like a day and a half to track vocals, and I don't want it to sound like ass, for these tracks that I'm saving for last. Like,
Hmm.
you know, that that's also freeing.
Hmm.
Like, you can do anything you want, like blow out.
Hmm.
yeah. It also helps having you know Itai as a vocalist as well, and even Ben sometimes like to just jump in and take care of some vocal parts. It doesn't all fall on one person, even at this point. So it's more fun, and also we all have different kind of like textures with our own voices. So it's nice to use that in the songwriting process as well.
I was gonna say, so yeah, that would play in. Like you view your own voices as different instruments and think, oh, maybe someone else's voices would be better here.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
totally did that all over the album. We kind of like, had the backing track, had the lyrics and some idea where things fit, and maybe some idea of the rhythm, maybe a really solid idea of the rhythm, of the lyrics, and then we kind of be like, all right, what parts do you take, what parts do I take?
yeah,
um, and sometimes we have a plan, and then we're like, nah, man, you do it. Or like one of us will do the whole track, and then we listen back to it like, bro, come in here and do like the mountain screams, you know what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Like,
Hell yeah.
woo!
And
Oh
also,
my god.
ever since, especially since Itai joined the band, doing the last two records with us, it kind of opened up a lot more call and response stuff with the two vocalists. So just going between Mike and Itai, just hearing their different voices and just playing off of each other, in a more orchestrated way for certain parts. I think that's a huge step up from where we were um, starting out when Mike was doing all the vocals for all the studio recordings. So just the palette's been expanding.
Hmm.
Definitely.
So let's talk about the artwork a little bit. Who did the artwork? Like it's definitely a very now. Is it a painting or is it digital?
It's a digital painting.
Okay. Like
Um,
so yeah. Pardon me.
yeah, but it's somebody. we found online, and I was looking for an artist to work with, and his name is Artem Demura. He's from Russia, and found him on I guess a digital artist website. The name escapes me right now, but I saw one of his pieces. He also did a Woods of Desolation artwork for a reissue of one of their albums, and we really liked what he did there, and kind of liked his vibe. So we gave him a vague idea of what we were going for, and he came up with that, and we loved it, and it kind of like
Embodies everything.
yeah, embodied
So
the whole thing.
you had the imagery in mind that you described to him rather than showing him the tunes and him interpreting it. You had your visualization ready.
Yes, to an extent. Yeah, we kind of like told him like what we told him was like we want a desolate valley with no sign of humanity, no sign of human life. So and possibly an ember, something like that, and
So
he came
Ohio.
up with that. Yeah, there you go. Ohio.
Shout out Ohongo.
Ohangus. Yeah, so we came up with the idea, and we wanted to kind of have the smoke turn into like a phantom coming out of the flames as well. So, but yeah, he captured our vision, better than we imagined. So yeah.
So let's talk about, for the sake of the listeners, when does it drop? When can people get their grimy mitts on this beautiful, beautiful album?
August 27th.
Not far
Move
away.
up your hands.
Not far away.
And Avant-Garde Music is putting it out on vinyl and CD for us. There's a digital release as well.
Double vinyl.
Double vinyl, yeah. Get that blue splatter.
Ooh.
With the side D etched with our sigil.
Really? Excellent.
Yeah.
That does sound really good. I'm gonna have to look into that. Is that avantgardemusic.com or?
Avant-Garde. Hold on one second.
If you want to shoot it to me, we can go ahead and put
in
the link.
Yeah.
When we post this.
Is on. You could order it from avantgardemusic.bandcamp.com. So they have it there. That's the Bandcamp, and also Roberto, the label owner, he has a shop called Sound Cave in Italy, and that's where he has a bunch of the stuff to pre-order as well.
Oh, excellent! And he ships globally.
He ships globally.
Yep.
Beautiful. It looks like James was getting ready to hop in right there. I'd love to just get his take on it. But he appeared and he vanished.
It's like a rare Pokemon.
He is the shiny of the band. So I guess let's go through and just get some parting words on the record. Like you've spent months working on this, I imagine. How does it feel to have it done, have it almost out, and like what do you want people to pull from it?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's we poured our hearts and souls into this thing. A lot of hard work, a lot of hours from everybody, and yeah, I just want to get it out in the world, and every set of ears will interpret it how they're going to interpret it. So we put our intention into it, and it's up to the listener at this point to see how that translates. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. You want to get sad? You want to get real sad?
No, sad with your dirty boys and Windfaerer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we're trying to take the listener somewhere else, and I think this effort is our best interpretation of that right now, and we're just super excited to have people listen to it. So far there have been a few reviews on of the album, like pre-release, and it's overwhelming already, to say the least. Just all the positive response, and we can't wait to get billions of ears on this thing.
Are there plans
Come.
to
Yeah.
support it live yet? Or obviously with things kind of descending, it's like we went down the
Hard
first
to plan.
the first roller coaster, and like we kind of got up, and it's like, all right, the ride's done. So I imagine once things do finally eventually settle down, there are plans to support it live.
Absolutely, yeah. We're thinking to shoot for sometime past this winter. But more to follow. We'll see.
Michael,
well-
or Mike, Ben, parting words?
Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you. Parting words. No, just thank you for having us. This has been a pleasure, and
Yeah.
I hope everybody listening gets to actually check out the record, and hope you all enjoy it.
James, do you have parting words?
It's been a pleasure. I feel like when we started this journey, we were strangers, but I'm happy that we were able to grow together.
James, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about Breaths of Elder Dawns, and I think that your input was truly what set this interview apart.
As usual.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. This has been a WDCE Loud Rock Interviews series. You can catch Breaths of Elder Dawns everywhere digital music is streamed and sold. You can pick up vinyl and CD copies from avantgardemusic.bandcamp.com, and that is dropping on August 27th. You stay brutal.